Hey guys, welcome back. In the last session, we have seen how to pull the newly created branch from the remote to the local. So we have used a simple git command, git pull. It will be loading the latest branch details. Okay, not only branch, it will be loading the latest commits which is done by the other developers as well. Then what we did it, we have changed the branch to the feature customer service. Now we are currently pointing to the feature customer service branch. Okay, now what we will be doing is we will be going to our Eclipse IDE. I'm using the IntelliJ, so you can use IntelliJ as well. Okay, I'm in my IntelliJ. Now what I'll do is I'll be running this customer service application. Okay, so here few things we need to notice actually. So you can see here project JDK is not defined actually. Let me set up the JDK setup. So I'll be using this 21 version. Okay, so let me use the 21 version. Fine. So it is scanning the index. So once everything is fine, so you can see this green symbol. Okay, so now let's run this customer service application. Run as a Java application or Spring Boot application, anything is fine, or directly you can run from here. Okay, so now it will be running your application on port 8080. The default port for the Tomcat would be 8080 only. Now it will be showing that the Spring Boot will be, okay, let me check here. Here it is terminal. So now in terminal here. So now it is saying that, okay, fine. Now it is saying that it is failed to start the application. What is the reason why it is failing to start the application? See here, it is saying that it couldn't able to find a driver class actually. See why it is throwing an exception in the sense. See here in the pom.xml file, you have added the Spring Data JPA dependency, right? So the Spring Data JPA dependency expect the data source details. Okay, and even you have added the MySQL connector as well to connect with the database. Now the first and foremost thing what we are going to do is we will be updating our application.properties file. So where the application.properties file will be available in our source main resources folder. Here you can see application.properties file. Now here you will be adding the property details. Let's go and add the property details. Okay, let me update the application.properties file. So now here I'll be adding some of the properties. The first property which I'm going to add is on which port number I'm going to run. I'll be using server.port is the one property which will be used to set the port number. I'll be using 8081. Okay, is the port number which I'm going to run this the Spring Boot application. Okay, on this port I'll be running the Spring Boot application. Now the next thing what you have to do, you have to set the URL. Okay, so we have a property called spring.datasource.url which will be used to set the database which will be used to set the URL for the database actually. Currently we are using the MySQL DB, right? You can see here in the pom.xml file we are using the MySQL connector actually. So now we will be using the MySQL related properties only. So now the spring dot data source dot URL, you will be adding the URL now. So what is the URL? JDBC colon MySQL colon MySQL colon / localhost 3306, because 33006 is the port number. This is the default port number where the MySQL is running actually, and this is the customer service is the database name actually. Okay, so we haven't created the database yet. Okay, just as of now I'm giving the database name as the customer service. The next thing is that you have to provide the username and password for your database actually. Okay, so I'll be providing my username and password. So if you have your MySQL database with you, so you can provide your username and password. Okay, so I'll be using spring.data. Sorry, I have turned on the caps lock. So it is spring.data source dot username. So what is the username? My username is root actually. Let me add the password as well. Spring dot data source dot password. I'll have the password as a root itself. Okay. So I have added the port, and I have added the URL, and I have added the username and password. The next thing what I have to add, I have to add the DDL property actually. So what is the DDL property? So based on this DDL property, the Spring will understand that whether it should create the table every time, or it should be creating the tables only once, and it should be updating the rows. Okay, if any new row is inserted. Okay, so this is the when you set this DDL property, so based on that the Spring Boot will be reacting actually. So by default we are setting this DDL property as update itself. Let me tell you that Spring dot data source. Okay, so this is the JBL one actually. So let me give this DDL property Spring dot JPA dot Hibernate dot DDL auto. So here we have multiples actually: create, drop, create only, drop, none, truncate, update, validate. So these are the some of the DDL properties we have. So if you give the create as the DDL property, so it will be creating the tables every time when you are running the Spring Boot application. Every time it will be creating the tables. If you have a data inside the tables, it will be dropping the all the rows in the table, and it will be creating a new table, fresh table again. So you need to insert the data again and again. So a create drop, what it will do is when you create, when you run the Java, when you run the Spring Boot application, it will create the tables. Okay, when you stop the Spring Boot application, it will drop all the tables actually. So create only, so it will create only in the sense it will create only the database tables at the startup itself. So once it is again, once it is like closed, we will be removing the tables actually, drop. So we will be deleting all the tables which is already existed in the database. So none, so we are not doing anything. Truncate, it is not needed actually. Update, so update is the very important thing actually. So what update will be doing is, so for the first time, update will be creating all the database tables. Okay, when you are running the application for the next time, what it will do is it will check the database whether the tables are exist. It will check for the columns. If there is no columns, it will add the columns. If there is a column also, it will update the column actually. It will add as a new entry. Okay, so for our requirement, update is the best actually. For every requirement, I'll consider, I'll always tell that update is the best one actually. So let's go for the update. So we have given the HBM to we have given the DDL property as a update. Now when you are executing the now one more property we need to add. So let's say for example, if you want, while executing the SQL query in the console, if you want to, over here, if you want to see the SQL queries, then you have to set one property actually. So the property is that show SQL. So show SQL in the sense whatever the SQL statements you are running in behind, it will be showing in the console. Okay, so let me add that property Spring dot jpa dot show SQL. So this is the property. By default, the property would be a false. Now we will be setting it as a true. So most of the time it is not recommended. As per a developer, if you want to see that whether the JPA is like converting the objects. No, normally JPA, there is a JPQL queries actually. JPQL methods are there. Inside, save, update. These are some of the methods we have. Internally, these methods will be converting into the it will be converted into the SQL statements actually to insert, update, delete the data. So if you want to see that, you can use this JP. You can use this show SQL statement. Okay, and next thing, the very important thing is that you have to set the dialect. Okay, so where you can like where if you want to connect with the MySQL server, you should be calling this dialect actually. So you should be using this dialect. So you should be using dialects. Spring.jpa.properties dot dialect equals to, here I'll be using the MySQL 8 dialect. I'll be using it. Okay, so it would be org dot hibernate dot dialect. Dialect dot, I'll be using the dialect called MySQL 8 dialect. I'll be using MySQL 8 dialect. And the most important thing is that we forgot to add the driver class name. So we should add the driver class name, right? Let me add the driver class name at the top. Spring dot data source dot driver class name. So you can use the com.cj.driver. As we are using the latest version of the MySQL, you can add this com.cj.jdbc.driver. Okay, so with this we have set up the properties. We have set up the application.properties file. In the next session we will be running this application and we'll be seeing that whether the application is up and running or not. Okay, so I hope this is fine. In the next session, we will be learning more on this.